Hey everybody, welcome back to our epic ESP takeover weekend here at Andertons TV. Next up, we have the delicious Josh Middleton from Architect talking about his new LTD JM2 guitar. So take it away, Josh.
First of all, the big question, you've been with ESP, playing LTDs, ESPs for years and years and years. So what is it about this brand that works so well for you?
The playability for me, like just that kind of, I think I got my first one when I was like 16 and it was like head and shoulders above all the other guitars that I'd played at that point. And I'm also a sucker for aesthetics as well. It was the headstock that drew me in, and then it was the playability that that got me to stay. But yeah, no, I've always just been obsessed with them, and like all my favorite bands when I was a kid, or a lot of them were playing ESPs, obviously Metallica and stuff. So yeah,
it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? That kind of inspiration thing.
Exactly.
Looks cool. It's got the playability. So yeah, excellent stuff.
Awesome. Could I talk to you just about your model, Josh?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, what do you find unique about it? What went into it to make it unique, and what do you really love about it?
I guess there's a few things. One that's not entirely unique, but I think more unique in some of the more high-end models is the fact that it's bolt-on, which I think is something that like younger players kind of just associate as being cheaper, just because it's a cheaper technique to make, and you see bolt-on more on low-end models as opposed to the high-end ones when they start doing the neck through stuff. For me though, it's a very deliberate, very conscious thing, and tonally makes a huge difference to what I like and getting that kind of snappier pick attack. But it emphasizes the pick attack bit without it being in a really harsh way, sort of like nasally kind of, I don't know, a lot of modern players kind of dial in their tone really, like I describe as overly biting and stuff these days. It just sits really well with like a bolt on for that just extra bit of pick attack. So I really like it, and it's got a really nice satin feel on it. So I think that's something already, the bolt on is something that they don't do too much in the more high-end models. Another thing that is, I think, completely unique to this guitar, as far as I can remember, I know they offer it on some of the USA custom shop models, it's the bridge, which is a tunematic bridge, but it's got quite a deep recess, which is kind of hard to see. I don't know if my camera's going to try and focus if I try and get too close, but it sits really low against the body, whereas normally a tunematic bridge like this, you've got a bit of an angle like that, and it brings it up. So this is yeah, I tried another bridge on the first prototype. This is only the second prototype, and I really wanted like a low profile bridge. And I know like a lot of people find that really comfortable. It just sounded a little bit too shrill and a bit trebly. So I like tunematic bridges, but I wanted to kind of get that really low profile, comfortable playability. And yeah, they did it, which is amazing. Awesome. I actually found that I really like this tunematic thing more than some of the really small bridges, because I actually like this bit that sticks up here. Like I've said it before, and like talking about this guitar, where if you're playing live and you're moving around and you want to lock back into your palm mute spot, that sort of anchor point is just like a split second, sort of like there I am. Sometimes if bridges are so flush to the guitar, you don't know where the string ends and the bridge starts, and like where your palm mute placement is. So that's just an added bonus. It's not something I'm going to say is a selling feature of the guitar, but the bridge,
it's quite a significant thing though, isn't it? I think, like, even though you say it's a kind of a little thing there, but actually from a day-to-day perspective, that's a game changer in terms of like always getting your tone when you need it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so it really is a big deal for me. But yeah, like I said, the recess is something that I haven't seen them do on any current models, which is really cool. And then the pickups, I've been with Fishman pickups for about 3 or 4 years now. I've been using the moderns, which I really like. But I think if people don't like or don't think they like the modern or active, the active sound, it's passive as well, voicing anyway. So which is really cool in the studio. I spend a lot of time in my home studio and doing a lot of demoing, and I play in 2 different bands with 2 different, all kinds of sounds. So I actually use my tone control quite a lot. Sometimes if I'm even in a more metallic thing, if I'm doing like a lead melody line that's going to be layered up something sort of metallica-ish, let's say, sometimes I'll roll the tone off like ever so slightly, just to so it's not too shrill, and like there's a bit more unified warmth across all the notes. Whereas a lot of metal players are like, get rid of the tone, I just want one knob and stuff. But yeah, it's useful for that, and it's useful because it's got the push pull, so I can switch to a passive sound as well. So I think those are the main things. Obviously, aesthetically, this is a unique finish just to this guitar. It's got the natural binding, which is like a reference, like a throwback for me to the first LTD I got, which was the MH301, which had natural binding, and I really like that. So yeah,
you've done a really good job there of thinking about really useful, adjustments to the design, where some models usually come out, it's kind of like aesthetic changes for the sake of having something that's different and associated with that player, but you've really thought about the playability factors of one of those little tweaks.
Actually, I've got to say that it's one of their thinner necks, which I don't think they have on too many of their models, which is the extra thin U, which is definitely not the craziest thinnest neck I've ever played by any means, but I find that really comfy. And I'd have to get up the dusty end all the time to sweep, and the bolt-on access doesn't really make any difference to me. I kind of find that when you're going up that end, like your torso's there. It's not like, so you have to pivot anyway. So like, it doesn't really affect my my positioning. But yeah, and I mean aesthetically, I was thinking about it the other day. This is probably the guitar that I would have designed when I was like 16. Like this kind of finish.
I was going to ask that, Josh. Is it
So-
like dream guitar versus practicality, or have you really got it?
Genuinely, I have both. Yeah, I'm not just saying that. And this guitar, even though I've got a custom shop here from ESP and an ESP M2 there, this is genuinely my favorite guitar because, like, aesthetically, I've designed it exactly how I want it. And tonally, I've got a few more years of experience in figuring out what I like and what works for me. So yeah. This is the guitar that I just want to pick up all the time now.
Amazing. So has that become like pole position when it comes to tracking guitars in the studio? Is that like the number one guitar now, or have you still got an old faithful that's like the go-to?
This is it. This is like head and shoulders above the others. I always found that back in the day, shooting out guitars to use for rhythm tracks, it would come down to this one or another one, which is an old Michael Wilton signature model, which is just I'll grab it, which is this one. And this one tend to win quite a lot back in the day, just tonally. And the thing that they both have in common is their older body and bolt-on necks.
Sure.
And I know now that's my sort of
that thing's really interesting. I remember interviewing Paul Gilbert a while back, and I noticed that he'd gone back to bolt-on necks on his signature models. And so I was asking him a similar kind of thing, and he basically said, look, he had a handful of guitars that he preferred the tone of, and they all happened to have the bolt on. It's just like, okay, sonically, it just works for him. So I guess it's a similar thing in your situation.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, like, tone is the most important thing. I've got a few different amps in here, and I really get into the nitty gritty of tone and mic placement and blending mics and stuff, and just chugging, that kind of thing, like that has to be perfect, because obviously being a metal player, you do a lot of chugging. And like you just like hone in on like different things and what bridge really suits what you're going for and everything over the years. And Floyd Roses, I actually think they really sound good, but for me, like I don't really need a Floyd Rose, and I slightly prefer a tunematic sound. But yeah, I've tried other bridges, and yeah, this just all is it now. So this is definitely my number one. I haven't done any I don't think I've been able to record it on anything yet, just demos so far. So I'm excited.
So we can look forward to that in the near future then.
Yes.
Of hearing that guitar debut on an official release.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So thinking about people that want to get into what you do, any advice that you give to kind of beginner players to get their metal sound or playing together?
Well, I guess there's a few things I could say, but one thing is that I see quite a lot, and I've taught guitar back in the day, is people seem to want to leapfrog over really fundamental stuff, which I think is really important. So just playing all your basic chords, learn to play Wonderwall, that sort of thing. Because I think you see some players that will go straight to trying to play metal stuff and they're not quite there. And they might be progressing, but they can't really play like a song, just play like Hey Joe, just stuff like that, which I think is really important to rooting what you do in musicality or, songs, and thinking about stuff like that. But at the same time, I like playing fast and all that kind of stuff. So I do see the attraction to just wanting to play metal and go straight into trying to learn sweep picking, even though you've been playing like a year. I would just say, just don't get too carried away with tempos or speed, and just practice endurance and cleanliness. And once you've got that, the speed will come later, and you'll have years of muscle memory in the bank that when you do start increasing the tempo, it'll work. That's what I found for me, especially like people always ask about like down picking and stuff. I just say don't stress about trying to get really fast, because you'll probably just tense up practice for endurance and just get a nice kind of bounce to your playing, or just relax a bit more and that kind of stuff. It just comes with time. But
it's an interesting idea, isn't it? It's what you're kind of saying is there's a balance between practicing technique and actually having repertoire and things that you can play or refer to.
Yeah, I mean, you want to. I mean, this sounds like my idea of hell, but you want to, if you're at a party and someone hands you an acoustic guitar and everyone wants to sing along,
exactly.
It's handy. Like that's sort of like the thinking. That's the sort of thing that would make me cringe personally. But it's you want to be able to play songs. Like that's kind of a very fundamental, important thing. I mean, I value that in my learning because my parents spoke to a guitar teacher. They said, start him off an acoustic, see how he goes before you want to invest on an electric. And I spent a year playing, chords like Oasis, Radiohead, Foo Fighter songs or whatever, or just anything that my guitar teacher would give me, and just like learning to play songs because that's it's really important. But maybe I just value that too much, but that's important to me.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because ultimately players need to know what their end goal is. So when you're working on technique and phrasing and all that stuff, it's like, that's good, but what's the purpose of all of this? And if you've got your repertoire building and you're picking up this kind of musicality or how to arrange a track and structures and things like that, all those things make that difference when you want to get your own song at the end of the day as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Break away from just exercises.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just ask about your practice, actually, what your practice routine entails, and do you this is something that rings with me quite often, is do you find it difficult to motivate yourself sometimes?
So I wouldn't say I really practice much these days, but I do spend most of my working week in here writing and demoing. That's like a full-time job for me. So like when we're not touring, I'll be in here working on new stuff, and if we've just released an album, I'll be working on new stuff. So it's I'm always playing, and I'm probably just been trying to maintain a standard. But more recently, in the last few years, I have been getting into practicing stuff, and when everyone's gone to bed, I'll sit on the sofa with my little Boss practice amp and just like work on licks and like work to push myself. But back in the day when I did like my real woodshedding, when I really saw like a big step up in my playing, I was never doing much more than like an hour or two. And really the main things I used to practice was the modes, going up one and down the next to a metronome, and just till I get to the octave. And then if I felt like I'd played it all the way up with no mistakes as cleanly as possible, then I'd go up on the metronome. And I think self-discipline. Yeah, that's something that I've just always had a certain amount of, just in all aspects of my life, and I kind of enjoy discipline in that sense. But practicing with a clean tone or unplugged as well as a distorted tone is important as well, because if you're playing clean, like the distortion is not covering up any mistakes, you can hear like the synchronization of both hands. But you might find that when you then bring the distortion in, that you're getting all these like strings ringing out that you couldn't hear ringing because the distortion's amplifying that, or these scrapey noises. So practicing both ways was something that I did quite a lot. I might work on something just on a clean tone on the amp, and then with a lot of distortion and balance out, and just really focus on like cleanliness and making sure that no other strings are ringing out. That was a really big focus. I think subconsciously it was a big focus, but it's something that I just didn't like the sound of, like scuffs and like unwanted string noises. I think it just annoyed me. Another thing I did as well that I actually would really recommend is I did like proper practice, but I'd take my guitars downstairs when I was a kid and like put Neighbours on before dinner, and I'd sit there and I'd still be doing the modes, and it's boring because doing stuff that's like really good for your playing is boring to do. So you might as well watch TV, because it's all going into the muscle memory. It's all like sinking in. And even if you're doing it really slowly, if you do this over and over again without even thinking about it, you will benefit from it. So like I'd do proper practice, but also just have the guitar and practice stuff, but without it being something that I had to really think about. Just like watch a film, because
you can do Netflix, probably not Xbox.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd really recommend it, because if you like playing guitar, like that's not really a chore to just sit there on the sofa with it and just
And that's the thing, is there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of people online looking for hacks into how to do this really quickly. And actually, it's like learning your times tables. There's some fundamental things you've just got to do, and you've got to sit. There's no way around it. You've got to practice and practice and practice.
Get the reps in.
Yeah, it's the most. I don't want to say like it annoys me, but it's frustrating to a sense, because people will always ask like, "How did you get good at this? How did you get good at this?" How did you get, as if there's like a secret exercise. I was like, "Here it is. Don't tell anyone." But it was like, "How did you get good at sweep picking?" I did it a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Like,
it's not a spell for muggles.
Yeah, and I get that it is boring, but that's why I would recommend, practice and really listen to how clean your playing is and everything. But when you're done doing that, as long as you're not, annoying whoever else is in the room with you, just sit there and do it whilst watching TV, and you can still think like, is this really clean? Is this really like consistent whilst watching like a movie? And that's not something that I hear too many people saying, but I did it loads, and it all goes in. And it really is muscle memory, isn't it? Like playing guitar. So
absolutely. Right. So thinking about, obviously COVID played its part in stopping plans and things that have been scheduled being rescheduled and all the rest of it. What can the fans of your bands look forward to in the near future? What's on the horizon?
It's tough, because although we are about to come out of this period of being locked down, not too many plans are being made just yet, because it's still in terms of like the general population getting back to some sort of normality. Being an international touring musician and all that sort of stuff isn't completely ironed out yet. But with Architects, we've announced some touring in the UK for February next year, which is almost like a year away now, but that's something that we're going to be working towards. And with Sylosis, just writing towards doing a new album. But yeah, I mean, with Architects, obviously our album only just came out, so we're looking to do as much touring as possible, and that will be on the horizon. We just need to wait it out and see when we can be announcing and booking tours for the rest of the world, because we normally are quite intensive with our touring. So
can I just ask, when you were on tour, Josh, when you were on tour, I've got just a kind of crazy trivia question. What's the worst place you've ever had to sleep?
Oh yeah. Well, fortunately for me, it's been a while since I've had to sleep anywhere too bad. But I mean, back in the day, we were touring a van and wouldn't be able to afford hotels, so you just like say, "Is there anyone who can put us up?" And it'd be like someone who was in like halls of residence at university, and we'd slept on like their horrible laminate kitchen floor with like, I don't know why, but the lights were on all night, like bright, really bright LED lights. I don't know why no one turned the lights off, but yeah, sleeping on like kitchen floors with like 4 of you in a row in your own sleeping bags, stuff like that. Yeah, just
you're right next to the store, obviously.
Yeah, actually, no, I've slept in the entrance to a car park in Birmingham, where we had to get one van broke down, and we had to get picked to, I don't know, this was like 2006 or something. So it was a while, fortunately, that I've had to sleep anywhere like that. Yeah,
oh yeah. Those moments you work out whether you really love this or not, if like being a musician is your thing.
Yeah, oh definitely. I mean, when you're all like in it together and you're a lot younger, it's just that sort of stuff's just kind of funny. Just like how ridiculous is this? Oh well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But speaking of ridiculous things, have you ever got up to like particularly ridiculous things on your rest days on tour, or did you have a chilled approach to it, or any crazy things occurred?
Well, yeah, so I mean, yeah, nothing that crazy these days. I stopped drinking ages ago for no real reason other than just hangovers weren't fun, and I prefer being productive. And yeah, the rest of the guys don't really party that hard. So we've done some go-karting, which we did on a day off in Poland. That was fun, but yeah, nothing too crazy. A lot of the times, like the rest of the guys like football, so they'll go. We'll happen to be in like Vienna or something on a day off, and they'll go to a football match. And me and the other guitarist, Adam, who's Canadian, doesn't pay attention to football either. We'll just be sat on the bus eating muesli, which is not that rock and roll. And he'll like make me watch films. He'll be like, "We've got to watch Eraserhead." I was like, "Oh, I've not seen it," and I was just like, "Oh, well, that was a waste of time. I don't recommend it." Sorry if you. It's a very weird film, but that's my day off. It's not very rock and roll. So yeah.
Fair play.
So if you, just a question back to your playing, if you were like Neo from the Matrix and you could literally plug in and download a guitar skill from any genre, any period, any time, what would you, would it be maybe country or jazz, or what would you get really good at?
I mean, there actually are some elements of playing that I actually am now starting to think about focusing in on. I've actually hit up some guitarists that I like for lessons. I haven't actually had those lessons yet, but never stop trying to learn. But yeah, just I don't really like economy picking. I've always been like an alternate picking guy because it's a lot more intense, and I like to pick really hard. And I find a lot of economy players, for the most part, unless like Rick Graham is the only person I can think of who's, you can hear his pick attacks really like brutal, but for the most part it's quite a finessey sort of movement. But I'm not very good at it, so I'd like to get good at economy picking. It's something that I've never really spent much time doing, and it is useful, and it's just a skill that I need to develop. So yeah, economy picking, even though it's not something that I am like really into, but yeah, it's something that I
Got some benefits to it, hasn't it?
yes, yeah.
In terms of intervallic stuff and shooting across the strings and getting different things to land on your fingers. So yeah, I can see the benefit in that. Okay, so final question then. If you could play guitar for any act or band, past or present, metal or non-metal, for one show only, which band would you play that show with?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, I've never been one for weirdly learning other bands' repertoires, so I couldn't do it any band at the drop of a hat. So it would take a lot of learning. It would have to be like Metallica or Pantera. Just those were the bands growing up.
Ultimates.
It's an obvious.
No changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of living the dream.
Yeah, I used to watch like the Live in Seattle on the Injustice for All tour thing all the time when I got home from school, and just be like, that looks great. So
that's an amazing gig.
Yes,
I want to do that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Excellent stuff. Well, thanks for your time, Josh.
Thank you guys very much.
Brilliant.
All that's coming up in the future, and I'm sure your new signature guitar is going to stand you in good stead for all the different things you get involved with.
Thank you very much.
Not too far down the line.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
Cool. Thank you, guys.